I was like, okay, Naga's taken everywhere. I was like, NadeGod, is that taken on Twitch? I looked and I looked and I was like, it's not. And like right then I was like, screw it, I'll take it.
Acted completely differently. Like I was playing with Andy last night in our in Apex. In our first 2-3 games, we didn't see anybody until the very end, and we were trying to push everywhere. And we were like, what the heck? And then a few games later, we're finding everybody. And we're dying left and right.
It's so weird. I don't see one creative or two creative directors leaving and seeing that as a major issue. There are plenty of reasons. There's someone to leave production, you know, halfway through. Some other company even like, hey,
that stuff does happen, but I'm just saying personally.
It's definitely it's scary.
And yells, hey, stop fucking and go somewhere else.
Oh my god.
And I'm like, what? And the only thing I can think of is for this guy just to straight up just walk onto his porch. Hey YouTube, how's it going? It's your boy Worm. Today's guest on the podcast, NadeGod. We talk streaming, we talk OBS, we talk Apex, and Halo, of course. You're gonna love it. Enjoy. Roll the tape, guys. Roll it. All right. How are we doing today, guys? Hey, we have the wonderful NadeGod in the house, okay? Y'all know him, y'all love him, and all freaking, I have to say he's another one of those top tier freaking OBS gods, I have to say, okay? You know, he likes to nade, and he's a god in OBS. NadeGod, there we go. Other than that, like this guy, every time I mostly lurk in his streams. All right, I don't really say a whole lot. I lurk in there every so often and all, and every time it's entertaining. Man's always got something to talk about. Man's just amazing at the freaking video games along with it. So you know, it's just absolutely amazing. Hey Nate, thank you for coming in. How are you doing today, man?
I'm doing fantastic. Although I only woke up probably a solid hour or two ago, so
you almost were an hour late to the podcast.
Almost. Time zones are tripping me up. Absolutely. Oh man.
Oh yeah, I'm over here saying the whole time I've been saying EST.
Oh yeah.
All right, and then the one time I go, hey 610, I need you in for tech problems. I don't put EST in there.
Yeah. It trips me out. I'm just so used to having everything in CST. I mean, it's just the better time zone.
Yep. All right, Nate. All right. I'm sure you've answered this question before and all that stuff, but I've gotten this question on my username. Where did NadeGod come from?
Oh man, that's a good question. So through the last few years, it's kind of silly in a way. Whenever I used to, so the later time of me being on Halo 5 was mainly spent in custom games. So for 2018, I would be playing mainly like PUBG with my small little like friend group. And then on our off days where we're just like, I don't really want to play PUBG, we've been playing them like, you know, day in, day out for the past 3 weeks. We would go onto Halo 5 and all the four of us would play neutral flag CTF. So it'd be like a 1v1v1v1. And we'd play that for like 3+ hours on like any map that like worked best for us. It'd usually end up with like 1 or 2 people getting mad that one person won this time. It ended up like, you know, we being mad at each other, but we play that I think for like 2 or 3 years. But through that, I was pretty good at throwing nades, and you'd have to be with having to get those clutch nades before someone would get the cap, and I'd be like, oh, NadeGod. And then that played into when I started streaming Halo 3 FFA on my own with, you know, the 1 to 2 viewers that I had. And so I'd get a little clutch nade and I'd be like, oh, NadeGod. And that was the very first emote that I made for myself. I made it by myself in After Effects, and it was the first emote I had. And then I had the name Josiah Naga as my first Twitch name. It was a play off of my YouTube name, which was Mr. Naga 10. I made that when I was 9 years old, and I was really into Bakugan, and that was the main antagonist for the first volume of Bakugan. And I wanted to have Naga as my Twitch name, but it was taken everywhere. And I think it was because it was popularized by Legend of Korra because her polar bear pet is named Naga.
Right.
So thanks, creators of Legend of Korra. You kind of ruined my future plans. But I was like, okay, Naga's taken everywhere. I was like, NadeGod, is that taken on Twitch? I looked and I looked and I was like, it's not. And like right then I was like, screw it, I'll take it. And then it was taken on some other platforms a little bit. I was just like, I didn't care. And so I changed to NadeGod, and my friends were like, that's stupid. That's silly. Like
I get that
so
all
stupid.
the time.
Yeah. They're like, that's not gonna catch on. And I'm like, I was kind of disheartened. And I was like, oh, all right, like, should I have stayed with what I had? But I stayed true to it. And I was just like, it will. Just gotta trust the process. It'll be fine.
Gotta own it.
And now here we are.
You just gotta own it. You gotta own it, you know?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Gotta do what you gotta do.
Well, I'll give a little bit of background on my name, Worm Dog, okay?
I'm actually curious about this. Curious about this myself.
All right. So I've had Worm Dog since 360 days on that was my gamer tag on 360. It was originally Worm Dog 420. We all know why the 420. But you know, that was back in the day. But my last, the worm part has to do with my last name.
Oh.
It kind of references a little bit of my last name. Okay. And then the dog part has to deal with me being in the Marine Corps for 10 years. And Germans used to call the Marines devil dogs. So Worm Dog.
That kind of reminds me of one of my mods. His whole Twitch name basically comes from him being in the army as well.
Yeah,
that's funny.
Huh. So I didn't want to, you know, and the only reason why I got into Xbox 360 and stuff like that and all was because of my friend Jerry, old college buddy, tech college. I mean, I will not say it's major college, but you know, tech college. You know, fair. Diesel mechanics and stuff like that. Whatever. Got my associates in business and all that stuff. But he got me into that because I was a PlayStation guy. I was always a PlayStation guy.
Oh man,
I was a big PlayStation guy. And he's like, "Oh man, you should come play Halo." I think it was like Halo Reach or something like that. Maybe
Probably.
Halo. I think it was Halo Reach because that was my first Halo and all that stuff. I'm playing with him, and you know, he's like, "Come over." His old lady's a wonderful lady, whatever. I'd come over. She'd feed us beers all night, just freaking drinking or whatever. And then I ended up buying me an Xbox myself. And you know, I was coming up with gamer tags, and that's what I did with my gamer tag and all. And it's been history since then. And like I've owned it, got my own logo and everything. You know, it's like screw it, keep it going.
I saw that logo and I was like, that's. I mean, I was like, you fully committed, man. Yeah, it's man, when I made my first gamer tag, I don't know what random gamer tag Microsoft gave me, but it was a word that at that point being 12, I was like, I don't understand what that word means. But I went to go change it because they're like, yeah, you can change it once for free. I didn't see the option where you could enter your own. And so the other option they had was you could spin the wheel. And so I think I sat there for a solid like 30 minutes spinning the wheel, waiting for like the one to come up. And I was like, no, spin it again. And I eventually landed on Blasting Light. And so that was my first gamer tag I had for, I don't know how many years, probably a solid like 2 or 3. But I was oh man, I don't know how long it took me to realize that you could just enter your own.
Yeah. You know, it sucks being young and dumb, right?
Fate is fate. Yes, it does.
Oh, all right. Thank you for those 500 beats. All right, so before you start your stream, what is the biggest thing that you look forward to before you start your stream? What's the biggest thing that you look forward to for every single stream?
Oh, the people. It's addicting, man. And I know any other streamer would probably be able to agree with me on that. It's just the connections and the moments you can have with all these other people. Oh man, it's hard to describe, but it's
a euphoria. It's a little bit of a euphoria.
I mean, I can hit a sick clip in Apex as many times as I want on and off stream, and I can go first in Halo FFA 10 times over. But like, if there's no one there to experience that with you and hype you up and just like connect with other individuals and to socialize with that, as humans, we're social creatures. I think that's what a lot of streamers really strive for, and I think that's what kind of pushes them to keep going. I mean, like a career in content creation is one thing, and it's incredibly blessing to be where we are. Absolutely. But like that's definitely one of the driving forces, is being able to not only connect with people, but in some way
have some kind of relationship with them and all that stuff.
Yeah. And to have them tell you that in some way you've affected their lives, or at least brought some sort of happiness to their lives indirectly in some manner, is an incredible feeling. And it's something that I haven't really quite grasped onto, because people will tell me those sort of things, and it's like, but all I'm doing is I'm
playing video games. Like, the only thing I'm doing is playing video games and talking. Like,
what did I do? Did I do?
Yeah,
it's weird, but it's special, and it's what kind of keeps me going. Is that if I can, I've always wanted to kind of bring some sort of happiness or joy to people's lives in some manner, and if this is the way I can do it, then I'm gonna keep going.
Yeah, I mean, I have to totally agree with you on that. Like, there's been a couple of different times that I've taken breaks and all that stuff. And all, and like I've had, a couple of longtime followers of mine and all that stuff, and they're like, "Hey, dude, are you okay? Everything okay? Like, are you going to come back?
Yeah.
Blah blah blah, and
Absolutely.
all, and I'm like sitting here like, dang, I didn't realize that so many people really cared and all that stuff and all, and you're like, oh damn, and then like one of my first podcasts I did was with one of my longtime followers, Savage Boy. And all, and he told me like how much like I've helped his life, and how much of an impression I've done for him and all that stuff, and it just got me emotional and all that stuff. I'm even getting a little emotional right now thinking about it.
It hits you, man.
But it's like when I first started streaming in the first place and all that stuff. Well, first I had to get convinced by a friend of mine. Because I got on Twitch, okay? I got on Twitch because I got tired of playing by myself. Because I've moved around so many times.
It's hard to keep friendships. Absolutely.
And just it's hard to do that, And then I was like, let me get on Twitch. I followed Stone Mountain 64 on Facebook and watched him play PUBG and all that stuff. Learned how PUBG worked and all that,
Oh, man.
And then I went on the Twitch and all because that was when Facebook was just like kind of starting up the Facebook gaming and all that. I found this guy. His name's now Eskimo Lou, but they call me Lou. I found him, and he's trying to figure out how to play PUBG. I've never played PUBG in my actual life. Like, I've watched a lot of it, but I never actually played it, right?
Played it, yeah.
And all that stuff. And I'm over here in this stream chat. Hey, man, like, this is what you do, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Do this. Like, I'm not trying to tell you what to do, but, like, he's like, I don't know what the crouch button is. Like, like, how do I aim? It was that bad. Okay, it was that bad. And how do I open up this door? How do I pick up this item and stuff? And I'm like sitting here like, it was that kind of help. It wasn't like trying to really
backseat gaming. Yeah,
it wasn't complete backseat gaming. It was like, dude, you need some help.
Here's the basics. Did you not think about like going through the tutorial or watching a tutorial of it before you decided to say, let's
watch
stream
a couple of
this video
streams
game?
maybe before? That's what I always do. Anytime I'm interested in a game, I always check somebody else's stuff out first. And you can kind of get the gist a little bit. But he was like, hey, you want to play together, whatever. We started playing together and all. We had a good old time and all. And then he was like, hey, man, you're funny. Like your attitude, blah, blah, blah. You should start streaming. And it's and all. And I was like, well, maybe I'll get more people to play with then.
All you need is a little.
And bam, and here we are, freaking 3 some odd years later, or something like that, close to it.
Happens.
And all, but it's it's definitely camaraderie and the community that you create and all that stuff, and especially like when you're able to create additional friendships through other streamers as well and all that stuff. So like we're
So worth it.
we're you know we're able to talk here, relax, and all that stuff, and have a good old time. And it's it's awesome.
Absolutely.
It's the best advice that you can give a new streamer.
Oh man, that's a hard question. I could talk about that for
Yes,
so
we
long.
could talk about it for a
Lord
long
Almighty,
time.
dude. I get that question a pretty good amount from a variety of people, and there's so many things I want to say. Because there's just like the little fine details of like, create a schedule, if you were able to. And then there's the more like kind of abstract advice, like that works for most people, might not work for some people. It's a hard topic to get into.
I think one of my biggest and most effective advice I can give anybody: don't expect to hit that start stream and instantly get followers.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
you
no,
have
it
to
is.
work. You have to work. You have to.
Yeah, it is such a difficult road to take on because
Network, all that.
Yeah, I mean, it's we're raised in especially for people around my age. I mean, we're raised in a generation of instant gratification. I could pop on my phone and get food at any second. I can, have immediate entertainment any second, any day that I want, and I continue scrolling and have that for as long as I needed to. Everything is instant, and so when you're met with a path or a journey that takes so much more work, effort, and time, and that isn't instant gratification, and may not guarantee what you want. That's hard to keep going and hard to. It's a hard path to keep on and to not trail off from. I've seen so many people be in a rut of having only streamed for probably less than a year and seeing little to no progress, and they're like, man, I don't know if I want to keep doing this. I don't know if I can make this work, but it's something that everyone's journey is different, and it is it's a marathon. It's not a sprint, and there, obviously streaming isn't for everyone.
No,
and
you can get burnt out.
Yeah, absolutely. Like they're like the same thing. I ran a photography business for 3 years, and I loved doing that. But there was a point where I was just feeling burnt out because everything was feeling kind of rinse and repeat. And I loved doing that, but I knew that like I didn't want to do this for the rest of my life. And I would meet photographers that had been doing that for 20 years, and I'm like, you're doing the same thing for 20 years, where you're just doing senior photos and maybe some wedding photos just every year at the same time. And like, how are you not going insane? Like, I feel like there's nothing different about that. Like I was getting to the point where like I was editing I always wanted to try to edit each was a little bit different, to not be the same, where it's just like plop, filter, boom, done. I felt so like disingenuous doing that. And I got to the point where like I was feeling like I wasn't able to have any sort of creative freedom doing senior photos. And it just kind of burnt me out of that. And so I was like, I need to find something new. And trying out with, streaming, I think I don't even know what kind of mindset I had starting that. I think I just saw it as some sort of hobby. It was so foreign to me in a way. And then out of nowhere, here we are. But in terms of advice, it's so much more hard work than anyone could possibly imagine if you're not in the space and if you have no experience with it. And you have to be willing to put a ludicrous amount of time and effort into it to make it truly work, and to be in it for the long haul. If this is like obviously try it out, see if this is something you would enjoy. But creating content on other platforms is incredibly essential, because in the Twitch landscape, Twitch is not a discoverable platform. It's not built for finding small streamers.
Completely agree.
Yeah, I was talking about some of my other small streamer friends, and I was like, hey, while you may only have 8 to 7 average viewers, or maybe 10 or 11, be proud of that.
Mm-hmm.
And here's why. I was like, if we go to this site, you are in the top 2% of all Twitch streamers. And they were like, what? And I was like, yeah, here, let's go to Apex, one game category out of every other category of Apex. Let me sort it by low to high. And I scrolled so far, I couldn't make it to the 2 viewer section. And it was at the point where Twitch was like, hey, if you keep scrolling and keep loading all these streams, we're going to crash the site because we can't load all these streams. And it was really eye-opening for them, but also for me to think that like there are millions of people trying to make this happen. And unfortunately, a lot of them are not going to make it happen, and they're going to give up and maybe move on to something else. And maybe that's, you know, just a sign of maybe their ability or maybe their determination. It could be a sign of whatever. But
well, it's also like their way of thinking of like all right, if I'm in this rut, because if I'm in this rut, what can I do for myself to change that's probably, you know, maybe work for the way I am. And maybe that'll bring more people in. You know, you got your rage streamers, you got your calm streamers, you got your giggly streamers, you know, and all that stuff. You know, you got all those kind of little streamers and all, and that's, you know, you got to find where you kind of fit at into that, and then create your own brand.
You got to find what kind of content,
all that
create.
Stuff, and then go from there. It's like, you know, yourself, you know. I guess now you're kind of going to more towards like variety streaming and all that stuff, and all that stuff. And I've basically almost always been a variety. Like 1 week I could play 5 freaking different games, and all that stuff, you know. And that's really hard to be able to gain a natural following, because that is all personality. That is what's going to bring people in, and have people keep on watching you every single day, and every single day you're playing a different game and all that stuff. And that is all about mostly your production, your personality, and all that stuff. But you know, it's a little bit easier if you stay in one category, one game the whole time, and all that stuff and all, because you don't necessarily. I'm not saying there aren't people out there with a lot of great personality and great personality, you know, all that stuff, but somebody could be straight streaming off of their Xbox the whole time, doing nothing but H5 the whole time, and create a huge following if they're good at the game and all that stuff, and all that, you know. People like me that don't have all the time in the world, I gotta rely on this freaking fat face having a nice little freaking entertainment. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's definitely a difficult task to achieve, is to get people in the space of, like, rather than only watching you for said game you play, is watching you for you, and that it takes a lot of time to do that, because starting out, when I was only streaming Halo, I did that because I genuinely only wanted to stream Halo at that point. I had the most fun doing that. MCC was finally getting fixed.
Right. The MCC was trash when it first came out.
And so I was having a ton of fun doing that, just playing by myself and, you know, entertaining the brick wall that was, you know, watching me play, as if there were, you know, 100 people watching. And I back then, I looked at Twitch as only realistically, I simplified it, I think, a little too much for myself, where I looked at it and I was like, okay, you're either a streamer that is incredibly good at the game, and you don't have to have any sort of personality. You could be, you know, deadpan, no one interesting to talk to at all. But your skill is at such a level that people find you still interesting, and they're like, I can't find this level of gameplay anywhere.
Because they're trying to learn for the most part.
Yeah, absolutely, that too. You're also in, like, inadvertently an educational channel, or you're someone with a personality. If you're both, if you can be incredibly good at a game and be personable and charismatic, then you've hit gold. Yeah. And I think as time has gone on and I've explored more of the site, there's definitely more to it, and there's a lot that plays, you know, into it. But it's very hard to figure out what kind of content you want to create and what you want to be seen as. Yeah. And that takes a lot of time. And I've for the people that I've talked to, a lot of them try to focus on that a little bit too much starting out. They're like, okay, what's my name going to be? What's my brand going to be? And what am I going to do? And I think you need to focus more on trying new things and trying out what works for you. In the same manner as, you know, growing up, trying new things is, you know, allows you to figure out who you are as a person, and allows you to figure out what true path you want to take on. Because I mean, if I would have never tried out a ludicrous amount of things, I wouldn't be where I am today. Right. And so in that same manner, with who where I am with streaming, if I wouldn't have tried and, you know, finding other streamers to follow, I would have never found K-Mad. I would have never been so amazed at his production value, being like, oh my God, streams can do this? Like, this is incredible. And so, like, trying to figure out how to do that and being like, okay, how can I push this even further what are the mediums are out there that can assist me in pushing this production value and this stream further to wow people and to be like, oh, this isn't just a normal gaming stream. This is holding my attention. I love this. And I know obviously, you're not going to fit the window of what someone's looking for in a stream. And that was a hard pill to swallow, is that like, not everyone is going to be interested in your content.
Yeah, not everybody's going to like you, and that's just a fact of it.
Absolutely,
that's just a fact of it.
Absolutely, that was hard to deal with it too. But like, it's difficult and it takes time, and it's not even something I believe you should like directly search for. I think it'll come to you in time, and you'll kind of slowly forge who you are as a streamer and as a content creator. And it's purely just through trying different things and seeing what works for you. Taking inspiration and certain aspects of other people, people who you enjoy, and figuring out kind of how you can make that your own. It's a creative journey, but I think it's a fun one, and it takes a lot of time. But I think if you truly go after that and you stick to that path, I think you can be quite excited with what happens up.
Yeah, of course, definitely. Now I want to backtrack a little bit. All right, you're talking.
Yeah, go for it.
You were talking about photographing and stuff like that, and how the monotony of that and all that stuff. I'm in a union job.
Oh Jesus!
I'm in a union job. Retirement, all that stuff, and all. You want to talk about monotony? Okay, I've been working on the same valves for the last 7 years. Every single day. It's like the same 10 different valves I work on every single day, and all that stuff.
So what do you have to do?
I work for the railroad, actually.
Oh, okay.
I work for the railroad. So I used to work on the actual locomotives and all that stuff. I was on the actual locomotives, working on those things and all that stuff. But now I work on small components and rebuilding air valves and all that stuff. Anything on a locomotive that helps you stop, I've messed with.
Gotcha.
So basically, I'm the guy that makes sure that your train stops.
Smart. Would be it's quite important. Yeah. Lordy.
But yeah, I mean, it's just, and the thing is, it's like it is monotony, and in a way, like going back and like I look forward to every night when I have my scheduled stream and all that stuff. It's like all day to day. I'm over here thinking of like questions for you and stuff like that, and how to keep it entertaining and blah blah blah. Absolutely. And all. How we could do run-on conversations and all that stuff. And like that's what I think about it. And half the people at my work are like, "Why do you even care?" It's like, because this is my passion. My passion. Like this is what.
It's sad to see.
If I could quit doing this, and make streaming more. And be less stressed, because I'm working 40-hour weeks. And then I go and do this afterwards and all that stuff. And I used to, back in the day, I'd work a 40-hour week and stream 5 days a week, 5 hours.
Extra 25.
And it's like, and then that got stressful and just, it hurts you and all that stuff and all. And it took me a long time to realize how bad it was. I mean, I almost broke down a couple times, completely stopping everything and all that stuff, because it just got emotionally tiring and all that stuff. And then, now I'm just like, because it's like this podcast stuff. I've been sitting on this for 9 months.
Yeah.
I've been sitting on this for 9 months, and I was like, what? Finally, last month, I was like, all right, let me start actually doing this. And I'm so much happier doing this.
Absolutely. Just got to make the push.
Yeah. All right.
The jump.
All right. It's in your Discord freaking little icon. Infinite.
God.
Do I really need to say anything more to get the conversation going?
Oh my God, that game. It haunts me, dude. I've been... God.
I'm sorry, but they're saying that it's going to come out at the end of this year. Me personally, don't see it happening.
Really?
I don't see it happening. I don't see it happening.
I fully believe it.
I don't see it happen. They've had so many directors quit and all that stuff. So many other things going on.
Well, I would say I think that the problem with gaming journalism, um, a lot of those, well, the few creative directors that have left, unfortunately, a lot of the press on that was kind of all done at the same time. Whereas you could see an article on some creative director leaving, whereas they've already left, however many months prior. I don't see one creative or two creative directors leaving and seeing that as a major issue. There are plenty of reasons for someone to leave production, halfway through. Some other company been like,
that
hey,
stuff does happen, but I'm just saying personally.
Yeah, it's definitely it's scary. Because you're like, oh shit. Like, and I've definitely been fearful of it because I'm like, well, why would you, like, you got this game you're making? Why are all these people leaving? Like, what's going on? But I fully believe that the people, I mean, I don't know how a game company works. I don't know how the gaming industry works. I'm not a game developer. I have no, experience in that field. And I try my best to not talk as if I do. And I try to also remind other people that I talk to or have conversations or debates with that, like, you can't act and sit here as if you do know what they're doing. Because I've had plenty of those debates with friends where they're like, this game shouldn't be taking that long, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, well, you don't know how long it should be taking. Like, if you look at the past Halos and, they were on that 2 or 3 year cycle, cool, great. Yeah, that took them that long.
Look how broken they came out.
Yeah, either broken, or if you look at how much cut content was in there. Halo 2 was supposed to have an entire clan system built into the game, but they cut it for time. They cut the ending of Halo 2 for time. Developers were sleeping in the studio and working 60 to 80-hour weeks to make sure this game came out on time. And so now that we're finally, hopefully, in, we've moved to the certain aspect of the industry where overworking your workers and putting their mental health at risk isn't a good thing. Games are going to take a little longer and there's going to be more delays, and people are more accepting of that because, we've seen what happens if a game is not fully finished and perfect.
Well,
we've seen Cyberpunk, we've seen Halo MCC.
Prime example is COD Warzone. I mean, every time that they try to do an update or anything like that, something else is broken. Something else is broken.
Yikes.
And all. Somebody saying Cyberpunk. Cyberpunk was actually one of those games I kind of wanted to give a little try on. But then after watching a couple of streams, because I always wait normally about a week, 2 weeks.
Yep.
After a game comes out, I'll watch a couple of streams and stuff like that, and I'm like, no,
Smart.
Yeah,
Smart.
And after a couple of weeks or whatever, people are like, "This is what is wrong?" I'm like, "Oh, well, I'm not going to try that now."
Yeah.
It's like Outriders. Outriders just came out 2 weeks ago. Okay, I love the trailer for it and all that stuff and all. I've watched a couple people play it a little bit and all. It gives me the whole Destiny and Gears of War freaking feel to it and all that stuff.
Yeah, that's what
and
it's
all.
Like.
And like, I was like, all right, that's pretty cool. But then I hear a little like last week or something like that, or midway through, about how broken it is, and they had to shut it down for a minute.
Oh yeah,
they had to shut it down
mass,
completely.
Bad reviewing the game. Oh yeah.
I don't know if there was like a big bugs or anything like that. I heard that, and I'm like, oh man. All right, let me wait another month before I even bother looking into that, because like I even got the demo because I was going to do the demo, but then when I seen how bad the demo was, I was like, let me wait till the freaking full game comes out. Now the full game's out, and that's trash apparently.
Yeah.
Like I want to get out there. I want to put out some decent content, but if I'm having to deal with freaking bugs every 5 seconds, it's like it's not going to be enjoyable for me, and I don't like raging all the time.
It's difficult. I played Cyberpunk on release for one night. I returned the game mainly because it wasn't really like my type of game. Mm-hmm. It was fun for one night, but I was like, I can't see myself, grinding at this type of game. And I saw a few bugs. Nothing was really game breaking. It was really just kind of like, oh, haha, funny. But I saw the entire journey that Cyberpunk went through, and the people, console players, and having to see what type of visual content they were dealing with, etc. And it's difficult to see that, and it's definitely you fear for your own game and its own release. And it was really hard to see that they delayed Halo Infinite, but it was, I was happy and sad at the same time.
Well, with
I've
COVID
been,
and all that stuff, like I completely
that too.
understood that.
Absolutely.
I
Absolutely.
can. I mean,
I can't imagine how much of a crutch that put in their development.
right. Well, I mean, I'm not going to get into the other side of COVID. I'm just going to say that freaking, because of the way everything was being ran and all that stuff, and people not being able to go to work and do their jobs the way they're supposed to, that's completely understandable and all that stuff.
Yep.
But I think because it's still ongoing and all that stuff, I think there's still delays. Like there are still people to this very day that are still at like 50% capacity and all that stuff, and they probably are and all that stuff. So
I don't even think they're still even back in the studio, but I don't know.
Who knows? But the thing is that's going to put a delay on because let's be honest, you can't really put that much good effort and work into the game unless you're in the studio.
Exactly.
You can only do so much from home.
Exactly.
So
I got some friends that are still in like high school and some viewers that are still in middle school, and they tell me like how incredibly difficult at home schooling is, and like schooling from over a video chat. And I don't have any experience with that because I thankfully I got to graduate a 2 years before it all happened, but I can't imagine what kind of stress or mental health that that puts on some people, and how
my
little
son's
effort they
been
really want to put in.
complaining. My son's been complaining.
Yeah.
Luckily, he's graduating this year and all that stuff, so he won't be having to worry about it much longer.
So I can't imagine what how trying to develop a AAA title where you're normally in a space where all your team is there, you have the social aspect, and very it's much easier to communicate.
Brainstorm
Changes and
brainstorm, just brainstorming.
Yeah, exactly. Brainstorming, yes. Everything is so much more fluid, and having to kind of uproot all of that and separate everybody is difficult. And you're not in your normal space. I can't imagine what it must have done to all of them. But from my point of view, I fully believe they'll launch the game this year. My fear is that, obviously, from everything we've seen, has been more positive than negative. We've got a few little like bumps there, like no playable elites or something like that. But for the most part, seeing the visual, design of the game, hearing the game, the music, seeing everything that we've seen so far has been incredibly positive. And seeing how much of a difference the game looks now compared to what we saw at E3, it's beautiful. And it puts
the open world concept and all that stuff, I believe, is what they're trying to do as well, correct?
Yeah, not completely open world, but more so of like having more of an ability to explore. And
I love that. I love that.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying?
Not being constricted to a path. And I remember I'm going to be replaying Halo 5's campaign here pretty soon, but I only played that through maybe one max. And I just remember in some areas you absolutely could explore, but I remember the first mission being very just straightforward.
Yep.
And even replaying Halo CE, sometimes it feels like they're not even just any Halo campaign. It's very linear. And I think that's kind of why I don't really replay them very much, because I feel like, once I've played it once or twice, that's it. But with this, I feel like I can truly jump on with some friends and not feel constricted to the flow and feel like we have to do something. I can be like, hey, you want to go grapple race up that mountain? Like, yeah, absolutely. Or let's go explore this. So let's, all this sort of stuff. And I'm excited for that. Absolutely. And I think I'm going to be spending so much more time in the campaign than I normally would. But it's
like you were talking about being linear and all that stuff. Personally, I don't think to this very day I have not completed a campaign mode. And Reach, Halo 4, H5. Like I haven't gone on MCC and done H3 or whatever. I'm sorry, I'm not an H2 or H1 guy, right? H3 is like the farthest back I go. But I still have yet to do a full campaign because I just get bored. Because it's basically straightforward. And that's it. I want to be able to veer,
enemies, keep going,
and all that stuff. And it's like, it gets very boring and all. And having that option for the open world kind of concept.
There's still a golden path, but you still you feel like you just have more free will and control over what you're doing.
Yeah,
absolutely. But yeah, so while I'm very fearful for this game because it's been
Well, if
Six
it comes
years.
out if it comes out broken, it's gonna
Yeah,
hurt.
it's gonna hurt. Oh man, I played through every bug in every patch of MCC, and every time one came out and they're like, "Here's the patch notes," I was like, "Yes, it's gonna be a fixed game. It's gonna work." And every time it didn't. And then eventually the patch just stopped coming, and Halo 5 came out, and majority of people moved on. It that hurt a lot, and it was hard to do anything as just a normal player. I can't imagine what it must have been like as a content creator in that time, in that space. I watched a lot of BBK Dragoon, and I still do. He makes really good Halo content. He even kind of moved on to Destiny and making that content because it worked for him, and he enjoyed doing that because there wasn't anything to do with Halo at the time because it was just broken, and they left it. And so I'm very sure after seeing something like MCC, I don't think anything like MCC will ever happen again. And that could be seen as like the worst game release in existence with how bad it was and how broken it was left for such a long time.
Yeah.
But I think they're definitely taking as many precautions as they can because they've learned from the mistakes, and not only from the game functionality aspect of learning from their mistakes, they've learned from their mistakes in every other aspect of the game.
I think also when they put it on like PC and all that stuff, I think that helped them a little bit and all that stuff.
Absolutely.
And I think because they did put certain things on PC, it probably helped them in a way on being able to fix the bugs easier than being on console. Honestly, I think maybe I don't know, but it just seems like the fixes were getting done faster when they started putting it on PC.
Yeah. I mean, they mainly had like a dedicated little small team doing all of it, so they really had the train rolling. But it's hard being a content creator for Halo right now, and I can only imagine how some other people feel in trying to create something out of thin air when you feel like everything's been done, and you know. I can't imagine what the pro community feels like after a delay like that, because I mean that's your job, and seeing your job and potentially hopefully a very healthy esports space be pushed off an entire another year, that's hard. That's a hard pill to swallow, and so I'm incredibly fearful for this game, and I'm hopeful that they have learned from every possible mistake, that it's going to come out with very little issues, and it's going to be a full complete game. From which where Halo 5 was not, you know, I can only hope, and it's a good thing that you have your expectations low, and it's completely okay if other people do based on past experiences, because if it works out, then you feel even better.
Right, exactly. Now, this is somewhat controversial. Do you think Halo should have a BR? Now, I'm not saying I'm not saying with the game as well, because like for me, I think it should have a BR.
Yeah.
But it should be on its own, kind of like how they did to like Halo Wars and stuff like that. Have its own little game. Maybe do a thing of like how they do with COD Warzone, where it is
its own separate entity.
Its own separate entity, but if you do certain things in the main game, you'll get certain perks within the BR or whatever, or something like that and all. Because I honestly think it wouldn't be that hard. I mean, it's like I've already like thought in my head like kind of like a map, a couple different map designs, how they would use the freaking shields and all that stuff. And like, you could do it to where it's like, for one little idea, which is a crazy freaking idea that I had, is that, okay, make it into the ring, okay? Make it into the ring itself, okay, and then have pads that go across to each to the direct other side. You know what I'm saying?
It's gotta be one small ring.
Okay,
like a teleporter or something.
Yeah, like a teleporter. You know what I'm saying? But I mean,
it'd be a big map.
But just have it. The little square, an actual ring, and all, and then to have the map go smaller and to have the zones, right? Have pieces of the ring break off at the different zone points. And then as those pieces break off, right?
Just get smaller and smaller.
It'll get smaller and smaller. And then those those teleport pads, or whatever you want to call them, would no longer be worked. And obviously you have a countdown. And guess what? If you're still on the ring by that time, you're out of the match. You're out of the match. And all. That's one design. Or you could do a flat map. You could do one flat map where, you know, kind of like Apex in a way, and you just have like all the B2B
Yes.
maps. Maybe a little bit in between, like have a little bit smaller or larger versions of
each map. Yep.
certain.
Kind of like how didn't Warzone do that a little bit?
Yeah, Warzone did kind of do it a little bit and all that stuff. And they kind of do, I mean, they put it into one map that some people really liked recently, or at least or like the building of it and all. But you could do that, and then obviously have the zones come in, and it's like, all right, a lot of people, well, how would you work the shields? Okay, well, you drop in, you just have a regular shield, you know, normal shield, whatever. It's only a 2-shield system. You get a shield that's considered your over shield, okay? And then when you get the third shield, that's your what is it? Overkill? The red. What's the red?
Oh jeez.
The
red shield?
Yeah, the red one. I'm having a brain fart.
I know of overshield. You can have like 2 times overshield. There's damage boost. That's what I'm thinking.
Damage boost is the red. Damage boost. Okay, so you have your overshield, and then you have the damage boost, but the damage boost has the overshield along with it. Because remember, in the game itself, you can have overshield and damage boost.
Yeah.
And all. Yeah. But the damage boost, let's say it only gives like for an overshield. Let's say overshield gives you, let's say 8-10 hits, okay, to kill you, okay. Let's say eight hits, okay, because it's what 5 hits for regular and all that stuff. So, 8 hits for the overshield, and then with the other shield, it'd be 10 hits, and then freaking you drop using that extra boost. Yeah, it like cuts down 2 more hits from the overshield kind of deal. So if you shoot the guy once, instead of it being 1 hit, it's counted as 3 hits or something like that. But make that a rare freaking overshield. You know what I mean? Make that a really make it a care package thing or something like that. And then
there's and there's a million ways you could make a Halo BR, and I've heard.
Well, like you already have extended mags and different scopes and all that stuff and all. You can make that attachments and all that stuff just like how you do for Apex. I mean, I'm not a designer or anything like that, but the possibility is there. Absolutely. I like the ring. I like the ring idea because it makes it completely unique and all that stuff. But like that would be a nightmare, I think. Than just having a regular flat map.
I'm trying to think of how that would work. I can't begin to think of how that would be. Oh lordy, I don't even know. Yeah, I mean to go back to the question. I mean, I absolutely. Yeah, Halo should have a BR, and because I remember it was 3 years ago at this point. I think we were the Halo community was like spitballing that idea of a Halo BR in like 2018, and I saw so many people be like, "No, BR is just a fad. Like, let it die. It's just a trend.
It's not going away."
Go. And it's so incredibly obvious at this point. If you're truly within the space, you know it's still going to be going for a very long time, if not ever going to stop. There are people that play that game day in, day out and have been for the past 2 or 3 years, and they still don't really see it as a BR. They see it as a fun game that they have put their blood, sweat, and tears into, and they'll continue to do so. And so, absolutely, it should have a BR. I think it would work better personally if the game was attached to Halo Infinite, or at the very least, the free multiplayer portion that they were advertising, because I think it would work better than the way Call of Duty is doing right now. I think Call of Duty's model is good because they are still releasing a new game every single year, while Warzone is on the side over here, just kind of doing its own thing, being modeled off of Modern Warfare. Whereas with Halo Infinite, you know, we're going to have this game for the next 8 to 10 years potentially, and they're going to be supporting it for that long. It could absolutely work. You know, you have the whole ODST drop pod idea. You have I don't know if you've ever seen Pixel Flare's concepts from, I think he did this like in 2018.
No, I haven't seen them. I haven't seen them.
Dude.
I'll probably have to look it up.
Really, 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 really well done. And they definitely make you think. I think he essentially had these two concepts. You had the one where it's just ODST drop pod. They're dropping on in. And then you had the one where it was more kind of Apex themed. I think this is even before Apex. This is even before Apex was a thing. But it was a character selection where you could choose from being a Spartan or an ODST or a Promethean Knight or an Elite or a Jackal or Brute, and having, you know, different types of abilities and character traits and different speed, damage, stats, etc. But he just did a really, really, really well done concept, and I think that's kind of what helped the conversation continue to move forward. But in terms of like, should it have a BR? Absolutely. And I don't really see that as them conforming to the trend. I see that as like allowing more players options to enjoy the game in a different way. And as well as people who enjoy a BR, they could take a look at Halos and play and be like, all right, this is my number one. Like, this is it. You know, the same way I'm sure.
There's so many just regular casual people that would prefer playing a BR than going into MM.
Absolutely.
And
everyone's different. Like, people just prefer that.
And all that stuff because they can play their own way in a BR, where MM, they have to play a certain way and all that stuff.
You know, you think, you know, it'd be like, hey, you're playing Warzone and you have been for over a year now. You're not very good at it. You die almost every match. Why don't you just play matchmaking? And it's like, well, this is what I enjoy. I enjoy doing this, even if I'm dying, you know, every other game and I barely win. It's just something about it, and it's hard to.
It can be completely different each game. Yeah, I think that's what's so best about and so good about it. That's the reason why I like Fortnite and all those others. PUBG, all that. It's just because each game you can treat it differently and all that stuff, and it could be acted completely differently. Like I was playing with Andy last night in our in Apex. In our first 2-3 games, we didn't see anybody until the very end, and we were trying to push everywhere. And we were like, "What the heck?" And then a few games later, we're finding everybody, and we're dying left and right.
It's so weird. There's some games where legit, there's only 3 squads left by the time the second ring is starting to close it. It's so stupid.
Right.
Oh my gosh.
But all right, so we got Mr. Thing here in the chat asking if vehicles in BR. I think there could be. I would say maybe Warthog and Ghost.
Very limited. Very limited.
Warthog and Ghost, that'd be about it. I think for me.
And I think, oh man, that's the question is if you're gonna put a vehicle in there, do you put a vehicle that can actually deal damage, or are you purely gonna put a vehicle in there for transportation?
Transportation only.
Somewhat like absolutely. Like Apex with the Trident, you know, that's a vehicle, but it's there for like quickly traversing through the map in an emergency. And I've had plenty of moments where I have been able to use that to get away and to relocate, otherwise game over. So I think, transport hog or like a mongoose for you and your buddy to jump onto to just get out of there or chase the ring. Yeah, perfect. But I think if someone's rolling up in a warthog and a chain gun, I think that would create a lot of very cheap and frustrating moments that I wouldn't really want to see happen. But maybe, I don't know, maybe like a hornet with no guns, a transport hornet or something like that. There's just, oh man. There's so many ways you could do a Halo BR. And even if they're not going to do it, and even if they're truly telling the truth and they're like, no, there is no Halo BR. The only BR for us is the battle rifle. That's sad to see, but I'm sure that Halo Infinite is still going to be filled with plenty of content.
I think the having like that little bit of an open world concept or whatever, I think that will satisfy a lot of people.
Oh man,
that will satisfy a lot of people,
and people.
You won't have to have the BR. Like it could be one of those things like where they go, okay, 2 years later, hey, guess what, guys? We said there's only the battle rifle. Guess what? We're bringing out a
even if it's not at launch, like if for some reason like a year after launch they're like, or even like I don't care when it comes. If a BR is in progress, if they haven't even started, I don't care. I don't care if it comes out in 2024. Please, I in my brain, all I can think about is like I just want Apex, but I just want it Halo-ified.
Right.
That's all I want. That's all I want. Because I love Apex, but if Apex was Halo, I'd play it so much more. Oh my gosh.
Because I mean, you got so many different characters already that you can play as.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
There's
so many.
much there. There's so much there.
You know,
There's so many.
I just think the design concept is the biggest complication and all that stuff and all. And with that, you know, being what 5-6 years since the last one and all that stuff, and then apparently they've been working on it the whole time or whatever. You know, just imagine if they try to bring out a BR that is good from the get go and all that stuff, how long that's going to take. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like that could take a long time as well. But
Yeah,
I still think that there should be one that comes
absolutely.
out.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
I think it would. I mean, it would help with the player base even more, because again, it's such an incredibly engaging game mode and type of game that having that alongside your fully fledged multiplayer and Forge and custom games, it would just help saturate the community more. And
that's what we need.
It's been a long time since I've seen the Halo community be actually like saturated with people. I don't know. It's I'd love to be there again. I unfortunately never got to live in like the Halo 3 glory days. I didn't get an Xbox 360 till like 2012. So it was like right before Halo 4 was coming out. And you know, you had the issues of Halo Reach kind of killing the competitive scene and the whole MLG momentum they had from Halo 3. But I think I was able to participate in a lot of really key moments, especially like the machinima community and the clan community was probably the first two that I really got into. And to like watch the machinima community kind of die over Halo 4 and Halo 5's lifespan was like really hard to see, from going from how incredibly lively it was in Halo Reach. But that's all I really want to see for Halo, is to just see it alive and well again, and to see people enjoy it, and to just have a positive, for the most part, positive community full of creators and fans that, you know, are there. Like Halo Outpost Discovery was probably the closest I got to that, because like I've said in past streams, being in a building full of people who share the same, you know, passion as you for a game, it is, I can't even describe it. Like that was one of the, if not the best weekends of my life. It was so enjoyable. And that's kind of what helped reinvigorate my love for Halo even after that. But it was an experience like unlike any other. So, you know, all we can really do is you know, hope 343 has this ball in their court, and hope they can stick the landing.
Definitely. And I just would wish in the meantime they would fix servers for H5 so that it doesn't, you know, have any big problems in the meantime. But we already know they done like basically completely dropped the ball on that one.
Yeah, I mean, Halo 5 isn't doing too hot right now.
Honestly, like I've been wanting to play more MCC lately than what I've been wanting to play H5.
Yeah.
Mainly because of server issues and all that stuff.
I mean, it's getting love and support.
It doesn't help that I've been going more towards freaking PC gaming in the first place and having it on PC.
Doesn't help.
You know, it's like, do I really want to turn on this Xbox anymore?
When you're spoiled with instant input and 144 frames, it's and FOV adjustments, etc. Like going back to Halo 5. Oh man, it
hurts.
It does. I got my second PC for gaming, and then I kept my main one for streaming around like March or April of last year. So that's kind of when I started. It was a very slow kind of process of just like turning the Xbox on less and less, and you know, sticking to that. And I mean, MCC came out, or Halo Reach was already out on MCC, and I think I got it around Halo C or Halo 2's launch. But it was a while before I'd play Halo 5, and I went back there. And I was like, is my controller busted? Like, why does it feel like I have no control right now? Like the input delay is incredible. And I was like, I think there's something wrong with my controller. And I'd like unplug it. And I'm like, okay, I think the cable's busted or something.
Check the
And then I
nat
went and
type
got
50 million times.
Yeah,
All that
literally.
stuff.
I was like, this is insane. And I went and got my roommate's Xbox, and I was like, okay, maybe it's just my Xbox. And I compared the two, and I was like, is this just what console was like? Like, is this what I was like playing? If you're used to it, yeah, you don't feel anything, you don't experience anything. But when you're greeted with something, you know, above that level, it's like when you go to 144 frames per second, you don't want to play 60 anymore, even if that's what you've been doing for, you know, the past few years. Same from going from 30 to 60. You don't want to go back to 30.
Right.
And so in the same manner, going back to Halo 5 was really, really weird. And then finally understanding what heavy aim is, and that whole issue was another like, oh God, this is so much pain. And so understanding that and realizing all of that and being able to fully like grasp onto the issues that Halo 5 has been having and what it was, you know, how good it could be if that game was brought to PC. I feel so bad for the people who are still making content with Halo 5.
Yeah.
And not as like again, like I've said, like not as like not in like pity or anything, and not in like a bad way. It's just like,
no, I mean, there's a lot of great freaking players that are still playing,
and
absolutely, streaming and all that stuff and all. It's just
bad
like
because their game's kind of left in the dust.
Yeah, they are left. They're like, you know, forget you guys. But it's and it's like I even noticed, actually a really big difference. Okay, so I used to own a house and I sold it a while back, and I had fiber internet in that thing. Okay, now I've moved to an apartment. I got Comcast.
Yep.
And all that stuff, and it's like, it's ass.
It's a pain.
It's ass. It was like, it was nothing back in my house for me.
Yeah.
I'm not the greatest player in the world. Okay, let's be honest. All right, I'm not. Okay, all right. I'm normally a freaking plat player, whatever kind of deal, you know. But in my house, like I was getting diamond easy. I could get diamond. I even got Onyx and freaking Slayer one time and all that stuff. You know, I was
You're ready to keep moving up.
Yeah, I was like, all right, and I was spending time on it, especially since I've been in this apartment. I'm straight staying in that plat freaking diamond one, plat diamond one, plat diamond one, plat, and all that stuff. And half of it's because of connection issues.
Yep.
You know, Halo 5 being Halo, all that stuff. And it's just, I feel sorry for like some of these people that, you know, have like the horrendous ping, freaking like a zero upload, all that stuff. It's like,
I got a my mod who plays Apex competitively, and he's one of the most insane players that I know. And I was thankfully able to help him kind of get off of like console and onto PC and kind of, you know, start that whole journey of streaming and such. And he would tell me, he was like, back before I even had internet, like I'd use like a hotspot, and so he's playing on like 150 plus ping on like console, and he's making it work, you know, like when you're used to it and when that's all you've got, you make it work. And like even on like in that same manner, I've got some people in my community who don't have the best of internet or don't even have the best of PCs or even like a laptop, and they're like, I still want to stream, and they make it work. They're like, I'll stream at 240p 500 bitrate. I don't care, as long as, you know.
Well, it's like right now, it's like right now because of Comcast and all that stuff. In order for me to have all the different, you know, outputs and all that stuff, I'm at 2800 freaking bit rate right now.
Yeah,
I'm at 28. My house, I could do 36.
Yeah, exactly.
I could do 36 and be fine.
Yeah, and
get all of my quality outputs and all that stuff.
You're doing a podcast because there's not a whole lot of
exactly right.
Yep.
The fastest movement is me always freaking moving around, you know?
You got to adapt.
But yeah, I mean, because it's like you know, there's a couple of clips and stuff like that that's been made since I've been in the apartment, and they look like shit because I have to run at certain freaking bit rate of this place.
It hurts. I remember the days of making a clip or hitting something, and the bit rate was, you know, it adapted to what my internet was feeling at that time, and it looked terrible, absolutely terrible. Even Austin, same thing. Like, he was carrying us in Apex, hit a super sick clip of him winning, but my bit rate was shit, and so it looked just terrible. And it sucks. It's just one of the issues you got to deal with. Thankfully, like I was having issues with my ISP, and it was like February of last year where I finally had it fixed because I was like, all right, this is an issue that I think that like I don't know how else I'm gonna fix this. I was asking like my Best Buy managers that like people like one of them had worked at an ISP at some point. I was like, can you please help me figure this out? And I was learning so much more about internet that I had ever learned. And it got to the point where I was like, all right, I don't think it's my equipment because it's all new. Like there are streams where I'm having like there's nothing more disheartening than like being in a stream and feeling good and looking over and you see your frames start dropping and you're like, oh my God. Because you know the viewers, all they're seeing is a buffering screen. And it just completely takes you out of it. And it is so disheartening to try to even continue streaming, not only right then and there, but even days after that. Because you're like, if this happens again, like what's the point? And so I finally called them up and I was like, hey, how much would it be to have someone come out and replace my line? Because that's probably the issue. I don't know when that was last replaced. That stuff is outside in the weather. So it's probably, you know, weathered down to all
when
hell.
was the last time you seen a lineman out there? Never.
Exactly. So thankfully came by, figured it out, replaced the line, and I've had very minimal issues since then. Sometimes there's a random outage. They fix it. It's fine. But oh my God, I can't imagine how many other people have to deal with that sort of thing
on a regular basis. And you got to think about how many people that aren't even willing to go through the effort that you went through.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. You don't have that sort of like, I had my manager was like, literally like, if you're like, call them up, be like, hey, I'm not going to pay for my entire bill because you provided a service that was not 100% what you promised, etc. Like just stuff like that. But yeah, oh man, I hated those times so much. But being like, hey guys, gotta stop stream tonight. It's not working. And being so lost at like how to fix it. Yeah, it's so frustrating. ISPs are not fun.
Yep. Okay. All right, back onto BR, a little bit of a topic here. All right. Apex, what do you think of the freaking new update that's coming out, dude, and all that stuff?
Oh my God. I cannot wait. Oh man. It's hard too, because I'm like, dude, Halo Infinite's like right around the corner. If they keep dropping these Fire season updates and all this stuff that looks super fun and super engaging,
Arena,
I have an issue. Because like how am I gonna let go of this great game that I love? Like, man, it's gonna be hard. Because I told Austin, I was like, hey man, listen. I don't mean to break your heart, but when Halo Infinite comes out, it's going to be like Apex who? I don't know that game. I've never heard of it. I've only been on Halo the entire time. Come on. What's Apex?
Yeah.
But no, for real, this season, yeah, the arena mode is one, looking way better than I thought it was going to. Two, it's probably going to be handled better than when PUBG tried to create an arena mode. Oh my Lord, dude. I was so hyped for them to create an arena, like an arena for PUBG or like a custom game. And they ruined it. Absolutely ruined it. It was so botched. And when it came out, I was like, this isn't what I like. This isn't.
Well, PUBG was jacked up a lot before that anyway. So
it's so annoying. So like the looks of this, it looks like it's going to be handled well. I was kind of like in my head, I was like thinking it was going to be type of like Halo inspired, where it was just like, you know, kill, die, respawn, etc. But I think with what we've shown, I think it's going to be handled really well. It's kind of more of that Valorant CS:GO.
Yep,
buy your stuff beforehand.
That's what I was thinking was Valorant. It gave me a Valorant freaking feel to it.
Yeah. But like thinking about how Apex works, and you know, obviously it's a BR, it fits much better in line, and it's definitely in a more comfortable aspect for players who want to get into that sort of thing. And I think it's going to create a lot of very fun epic moments, and especially like, you know, the dopamine and serotonin you get from, you know, playing Apex and killing people and getting the win. I think it's going to be much faster it's going to be more enjoyable to play arenas, especially for people who don't really have the greatest skill set and who play Apex, play Apex, etc.
Well, it's like
more opportunities to do something like that.
From what I can tell is that, you know, you're still going to have your regular BR, and then you're going to have your arena. So like those people that want to keep on just doing the BR can do it. The people that want to do the arena, you know, you have people that play your BR, and you have your people that play the arena. And I think in a way, by doing that, and especially if they end up keeping the arena in and all that stuff, like you could have two different types of pro teams just within Apex. You could have your BR pro team, and you could have your arena pro team
Absolutely.
and all that stuff because they
think
they will be two different animals.
Yeah. Another great aspect of it, like even if it's, even if like it doesn't entice you a whole lot, and if you're like, I'm still gonna stick to the battle royale mode, I think it's definitely a very quick and easy way to warm up instead of just like loading in, dropping hot, and probably getting dropped like right off the spot, like right off the spot. It's a good way for you to really explore the entire weapon sandbox. Obviously, you can do that in the firing range, but that's the firing range. Like you don't really know how that's gonna work out, just shooting standing still bots. But it gives you a good way to really explore the sandbox, figure out what works for you, what doesn't, what feels good in your hands, etc., and kind of different player abilities in intense situations, what works best and what doesn't. Yeah, it's just going to be fantastic, and it's expanding the game in other areas, and I think it's gonna satisfy a lot of people. And it's gonna be a ton of fun. The new legend as well looks super fun to play as. I think that's going to create a lot of very interesting moments. Like,
it'll be very interesting to see played out.
Hopefully it doesn't break the meta or anything like that.
It's definitely going to break it. It's definitely going to break it. It's definitely going to break it.
I mean, I hope not. I remember when Rampart was coming out, we were like, oh, she's going to be so OP. And then she ended up being like the least picked character.
We
were trying her out in
I
Fire Range.
never thought that when Rampart came out. Never thought that. I was like, Rampart, that's just defending a building. That's camping a building. Like that might be good for the people that aren't very good and skilled and just like hanging out in the room. Yeah, Rampart, play Rampart all you want,
Yep.
But
it definitely it's more of like it's a more skillful player to play. It takes a lot more concentration and patience and chess, playing kind of mindset to play Rampart, because it's a very situational with her character. Whereas, it's Bloodhound, you can scan in any point, and there's some downsides to that for the most part. It's just a quick, easy, little Promethean vision there. But yeah. Oh, and then the bow.
The bow should be interesting. The bow should be interesting. I don't know. I'll have to see some gameplay on it, man.
I think because
I'm teeter-tottering
to it. Yeah,
I'm teeter-tottering on if it's going to be good or not, because like the thing is, if it's going to be like completely silent,
oh, you're right.
If it's going to be completely silent, I'm going to hate it, because then I'm not going to know where everybody's at.
Exactly. I guess we'll see. But I think it's also good that they don't allow you to attach any sort of. It'd be weird if you could attach a site to it. I don't think that would even work.
I bet they'll have a site to it. I bet it'll probably only be able to be like a 2 times, and it won't look like the normal 2 times. But I almost
bet how they would even do that. But I mean, that maybe.
Well, you can put different scopes on actual bows in real life.
True. Okay. True. Yeah.
Yeah,
I've only ever shot a bow a few times, but the attachments were interesting as well. I didn't really think of any like what kind of like hop ups they'd have for it, but like the one where it's kind of got like the shotgun blast, and then I was really happy to see that you could combine them instead of choosing one or the other, and then the other one where it's essentially rapid fire in a way, or at least speeds up your draw time.
It should be interesting. I just if I can't hear where the shot's coming from, I'm gonna be mad. Yeah, I'm just the dunk could be right up against my skull.
Yeah,
it'd be like dunk. Oh. Well, it came from my left side, but I don't know exactly where. I got a 180-degree freaking area over here.
Yeah. I think if you could attach a scope, if it's just like up to a 2 times, maybe a 3 times at max.
Okay. I wouldn't go 3 times at all, because you can cross map with the 3 times. You can pretty much cross map with the 3 times.
If you got the patience, yeah, you definitely can.
Yeah.
I guess we'll see. Next Tuesday, so
Yep.
I'm just waiting for the patch notes. That's my favorite part of any update, is reading the patch notes and seeing what they've changed to balance the meta, etc., and seeing what characters are getting nerfed, which ones are getting buffed, etc.
Right.
Love that.
All right. Let's go a little personal now. All right. And this will probably be ending it. All right. Tell me your craziest story, the craziest thing that's ever happened to you.
Oh man, there's a lot.
Think about it. It can be X-rated, it can be PC, whatever, all that stuff. Because guess what? I've got an X-rated one. Yeah, I've already said this on a previous podcast too, because it is the craziest thing that's ever happened to me.
Yeah, it's a lot, Lordy. Oh man, it's one of those questions where it's like you could think about this like any other day, and then once you're asked it, or like
I've got my. Let me tell my story, okay? And if there's any children in the chat or whatever, deal with it, okay? Suck it up. All right. Oh, craziest thing. I'm in Maryland, all that stuff.
Boy.
I got to know these people around there. I used to go to this bar all the time or whatever. And there was this girl that freaking was like my wingman. She would hook me up with girls like left and right, no problem, all that stuff, you know.
Slick, nice,
right? Well, I ended up hooking up with this girl or whatever, and she, we chat, we have some drinks, whatever, and she's like, "Hey, take me home." I was like, "Okay, I'll take you home, whatever, you know." Well, this girl literally, you've heard of Roadhead, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Well, she gets on top of me.
Oh, while you're driving?
While I'm fucking driving, I nearly wrecked 3 freaking times.
Yeah, it'd be a little difficult.
I ended up having to throw her off, basically.
Okay, not the time.
I was like, listen.
Wait till there's a parking lot.
Is there another place we can go to do this? And all that stuff. She's like, yeah, I know a spot. Was
she sober?
No, she wasn't. Come on, neither was I.
I was just kind of weird if she was. It's kind of a very bold move.
Well, this girl was a little crazy, anyways. It only lasted a couple weeks, and I was like, "No, you're crazy." I'm crazy, but she was crazy. But we end up going to this freaking spot, and this is what the funny thing is. Okay, this is the funny part. We go to this spot. It's like a little cul-de-sac, whatever. Got little woods. There's an open field and all that stuff. And I park right in the roundabout part of the cul-de-sac or whatever. There's this house. I see a porch light come on. Well, there was a car that came up, but that went to a different house. There's a porch light that comes on, right? Guy walks out of his freaking house. Just steps on the porch and yells, "Hey, stop fucking and go somewhere else."
Oh my God.
And I'm like, what? And the only thing I can think of is for this guy just to straight up just walk onto his porch.
Bold.
Just walk onto his porch and say, "Hey, stop fucking, go somewhere else." Not just that he don't care, but that's happened a few different times in that location. You know what I'm saying? And I'm telling you, like that's like 100 yards away, this guy. And he knows what's going on. He can see the foggy windows and the freaking,
quite obvious.
It's obvious. But for him, not even because a normal person, knock, 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 hey, get out. No, he just straight up yells. Doesn't care that the neighbors will hear him or not. That's the craziest freaking story that's ever happened to me.
Lordy. I have a few that are like, I'm probably going to stave off of just because they're a little personal and probably a little, no. I guess I have one X-rated one because I can't think of anything like super.
Well, you don't have to be X-rated. I'm just saying, that's the craziest thing that's ever happened to me. And I've kept it obviously pretty PG somewhat, but that's the craziest thing. I like. It's hard for me to top something like that. This is hard.
Lordy. Okay. I guess I can do the craziest thing that's happened to me at like
yeah, okay.
17. First goal I ever did anything with wasn't even someone I even really knew a whole lot, just someone like that was a grade above me. Being in a small town of less than 3,500 people, and also having religious parents, obviously there's not a whole lot of areas to which you can perform these actions. And so you kind of have to figure out where to go in this 2 mile by 1 mile town. And so you're trying to think of like, okay, where's some places where cops don't patrol? And just show up randomly, and like either like look at a random car parked. And so we found there was like one graveyard in town. We're like, okay, easy, drive into here, yada yada. And so while things were happening, out of nowhere, cop light, boof, through the window, and it was like just blaring, and we're like, oh shit. Thankfully the cop like didn't get out or like ask any questions. I think they just kind of looked and were like, and they just left. And I was like, okay, all right, let's go somewhere else. Noted, like not a great spot. All right, we'll go out of town. But it was like it's like one of the moments where your heart just like sinks and you're like, I'm fucked. They're gonna be like, hey, where do you live? I'm gonna take you home. Like, you shouldn't be out here. Get out of here.
Right.
Like, public
call
indecency.
the parents.
Like,
everything.
I'm fucked. Like, I'm still in high school. My parents are super religious. Like, I'm supposed to be doing this. Like, I'm grounded for life. Literally, all they did was just like look with their light. I don't even know if I saw anything. And just drove off, and I was like, great. What was the point of you looking, anyways?
Well, I think part of that is because we've probably seen like movement of the car and all that stuff, and was probably like, okay, is there somebody locked in the trunk or whatever? And then probably seen your head freaking go, huh?
Yeah, lordy,
yeah. It was like, okay, your head popped up, was like nervous as hell. Okay, yeah, I know. It's all good. I'm just gonna let this kid freaking have his fun.
There's so many moments in my life where I'd love to go back and just look at myself and be like, why?
Oh, I've got
like
too
trying
many
to think of like what my mindset was on so many areas. Like, what were you thinking during all of this? There was a girl I dated from a town like 30 minutes away from me for a month. And I don't even know. I don't remember why I dated her. I think I was literally just, I was 16 and horny. That was it.
Well, I mean,
there's nothing I genuinely actually liked about her.
Aren't you still, though, if you think about it? Like, we're all, I mean, I'm almost 40.
I mean,
I'm almost 40, dude.
I think we try to seek for some sort of connection, but
we're just more socially understanding. I guess you could say.
Yeah, I don't know. At that point, though, I think it was after like a month. I don't remember why we broke up, but it was, I don't even know. There's just some weird situations I've gotten myself in, and I'm thinking back, and I'm just like, well, I was such a fucking idiot. Like, what was I thinking? What was I doing? It just weird. I don't even know. I'm an idiot. I was under the 16 to 18 years of just a lot of question marks.
Hey, don't worry. You're still young. You still got plenty of experience to go about you, all right?
21.
Because that crazy story only happened maybe 5-6 years ago. Well, actually, no, 8 years ago. 8 years ago.
About 5. Yeah. Other than that, I mean, like, I've got like, I don't know. I haven't really had any run-ins with the cops. I've had a lot of moments. Okay, there's some moments where like you'd think a cop would have done a little bit more, but they haven't.
Well, so that was back in the day. Well, I mean, if you think about it, like nowadays, cops going to freaking hit you up now. You know?
Yeah.
Back in the day, not necessarily.
Yeah. The one moment where a cop definitely like, okay, this is such a weird moment I had. So was dating this girl who lived a different town. This was like my last ex-girlfriend. She lived in an apartment complex in a town 10 minutes away. So I went and visited her one Saturday morning because I was up all night. I hadn't slept yet. I went and visited her a little bit, and then she went off to volleyball practice. So I was leaving. And so like had been up all night, no sleep, was driving through a school zone, was speeding a little bit, slowed down because I saw the speed limit sign. So I slowed down, as well as there was something happening at this pool area. I don't even know. So slowed down, cop pulls me over, like, hey, you're speeding in a school zone. I was just like, all right. And he comes through and he's just like, hey, I just want to ask you, like, are you under the influence of any sort of alcohol or like drugs or anything? And I'm like, no, I'm good. And like, it's like he was noticed like I was like visibly shaking. One, it's because it's a cop. Two, it's because I hadn't slept. So I was a little bit scared. And he asked me where I was coming from, and I said those apartments. He's like, okay, I just want to ask because we've known some drugs have been, been coming in and out of there, and we've been kind of like keeping an eye on it. And he lets me go. Doesn't ask any more questions. He just asks, "Are you under the influence?" And I said no. And I'm like, is that your way of gauging whether someone is or isn't under the influence of something? I very much could have been. I very much could have had something in my car, in my trunk. I don't know what kind of legal laws there are about searching someone's car, etc.
I think
it was just.
I think some of that, though, police officers are trained and all that stuff. Just read body language, facial expressions, and stuff like that.
I was probably super pale too.
All that stuff. And like, if like you're looking like the white ghost with the freaking fear in your face and all that stuff, then yeah, you're probably not under the influence. If you could be pale, but not to give a give a fuck freaking face. True. And you're probably under the influence. You're pale because you're under the influence and all that stuff, or whatever. So like they are trained on certain aspects on that and all that stuff. So
just kind of threw me off.
But I mean, again, age, young, not having not that much experience going against cops and all that other stuff.
They probably they've seen a whole lot more.
Yep.
Cool.
All right. So we're actually going to call it on that. We're going to call it on that. It's just about 8:00, guys. Let me make sure that's going in there. All right, anybody in the chat right now, I am linking NadeGod Twitch account right now. If you have not already followed him, definitely give him a follow. Amazing guy, absolutely amazing. Any final words that you want to say, man?
Oh man,
schedule, freaking whatever, all that stuff.
I stream Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 8 p.m. Central. I'm going live in an hour. Halo Infinite is 343's Halo 3. And have a great night.
Hey, again, thank you, man, for coming. And I'd love to do this again with you, man.
Absolutely. This was super nice. Loved it.
All right, I'm going to hang up so I can do my little outro, all right?
Go for it. All right. See you guys later.